Hello friends, welcome to the second session in the interview readiness series in the data science ML and DL. In the last session we had about 11 or 12 questions where I explained you the fundamentals and we are going to continue the same. We'll have about 10 questions max in this session and we are going to go ahead with the learning. I hope you like the series and let me know if you have any questions. Why sigmoid activation function is less preferred over other activation functions? Now please have a close look to the graph. The graph which is presented here is going to stand as support for us. The value for the y responds very less or none to the changes in the value for x. I repeat, the value for y responds very less or none to the changes in the value of x. Very large change in the input of the sigmoid function will cause a very minimal change in the output. So this is a strong concern and this leads to something called as vanishing gradient. What is a gradient? We need to understand the definition of that as well. A gradient is nothing but an inclined part of a road or railway. You can see that here at one point in time you can see nothing. We have got multiple railway tracks here and it goes and goes and goes, and this is called the vanishing gradient. And this is very dangerous, and this situation if comes, the network will refuse to learn properly. It becomes slow. This is referred as vanishing gradient problem, and sigmoid is a definite victim of vanishing gradient problem, and that's the reason sigmoid is less preferred. Now let's understand how sigmoid works. This is a very important question too. Sigmoid is the simplest of the activation function choices that we can go ahead with. It is a simple activation function. For sigmoid, 0 is the lower limit, 1 is the upper limit. It is all binary. 0 is the lower limit, 1 is the upper limit. If the input is negative, it will transform this number closer to 0. If the input is positive, this will be transformed closer to 1. If the input is close to 0, transform this number close to 0 and 1. That's all, finished. It is very simple. If input is negative, it is close to 0. If the input is positive, it is close to 1. If the input is close to 0, then this will be transformed close to 0 and 1. Why do we prefer ReLU over TANH or sigmoid? Well, we need to understand one very important point here. ReLU is different from other activation functions. Why do we have to always transform the input to be between 0 and 1? It need not be that case. So ReLU is different. So it actually transforms the input to 0 or the input value itself. Yes, this is very simple approach. When the input value is negative, that is less than 0 or even equal to 0, it will make it 0 and 0 is the output. If the input is greater than 0, then the output shall be the given input. It retains the input as the output now. Whatever we get input will be transformed again as the output. Now, the major point that we need to understand why ReLU is preferred is this approach avoids vanishing gradient issue, which is definitely faced by TANH or sigmoid function, and hence ReLU is preferred more over TANH or sigmoid. Why data cleansing is so important? People call it data cleaning also, but the appropriate way to call it is data cleansing, I believe. Cleansing data from multiple sources help in transformation of the data to a format that we want to really work with. We are the people who analyze the data and we may want it to be in a particular format. It comes from different resources, hence this cleansing process will really help me out in getting them to the format that I want. And it will also help me in removing the outliers. It will help me in removing the uncertainties, and most importantly, this way of data cleansing will finally help us in improving the accuracy in the machine learning or deep learning, whatever we do. It could be cumbersome, it could be really difficult when the data is received from numerous sources. If the data comes from multiple resources, it could be really difficult, and volume of data if is more, you got to be really careful. And people even cite that it might take up to 80% of the time for just cleansing the data. Rest of the process takes only 20%. If you have better data, if you have more appropriate data with you, the entire process is going to be very smooth. So better the data is, better the result could be. So understand, data cleansing is most important part of it, and if you get the data in a nice way, your entire process will go in a nice way. So remember, this is a very important question. Differentiate univariate, bivariate and multivariate analysis. This is again a very important question. Uni means 1, bi is 2, multi is more than 2. That's it. We can understand that in a very easier way. But we need a technical definition. Univariate analysis are descriptive statistical analysis techniques which can be differentiated based on only one variable involved at a given point of time. The analysis done with one variable at a given point of time. If I do an analysis with one variable at a given point of time, it is regarded as univariate. When I do an analysis with two variables at a time, I call it bivariate. If it is more than two, we call it multivariate. So very simple thing. Please understand, this is a very important interview question as well. Univariate, bivariate and multivariate. Right. What is the next question? It's going to be interesting as well. What is false positive? What is false negative? We are going to learn these two. And this is a very important question too. Many of us could confuse it easily, but it's a very important question and we can have nice examples for us to understand this in an easier way. It is very simple. False positive are the cases that you wrongly classified a non-event as an event. A non-event as an event is called as false positive. You have classified a non-event which has not occurred as the one that has occurred. I'm going to give you a very simple example. A patient comes to the hospital. He is tested positive for COVID-19 based on the lab prediction, but actually he does not have COVID. Now this is called false positive. Now if he is being treated for COVID-19 unnecessarily, that is going to cause a lot of damages. He need not go into isolation, he need not take treatment, but if he is getting treated for that, it's going to be dangerous. So we call it false positive. We can see the picture here. Reality, if it is true and if the prediction is also true, it is okay. That is correct. Reality, if it is false and if the prediction is true, we call it false positive. And this is called type 1 error. We are going to see the next one quickly, which is also very interesting. What is false negative? False negatives are the cases where you wrongly classify events as non-events. Last case it was different. Now here we are classifying events as non-events. We are giving offer coupons to customers whom we believe that would definitely buy something out of that coupon. And the coupons are for $100 for an instance. But the customers whom we gave did not buy. So this is the best example. We have classified non-events as events which resulted in poor business. That's it. You can see that here. The reality is, you can see that here. What we have understood is false, and if it is true, we call it false negative. If our measurement is false, if our understanding is false as well as the reality is false, that is okay. That's perfectly fine. So in the previous case, if both are true, that is fine. In this case, if both are false, that is fine. But when it goes negative, it's wrong. It's called false negative. That leads to disturbance. Now, can you cite an example where a false negative important than a false positive case? Honorable judges deciding to make a criminal go free. Simple. That's the easiest example I can cite you right now. If the judges decide to make a criminal go free, that would be an instance. We will see more questions and I hope the series is going to be interesting. I've got around 150 questions collected. As and when I find time, I'll push it into the channel. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type it in the comment section. I'll be able to definitely answer them. Thank you very much for following the channel, the content. If you have any queries, suggestions, inputs, please go ahead and type it in the comment section. If you like the channel, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you.